Good afternoon, children of class 11th Bio. Today we are looking at Chapter 2, Systemics and Five Kingdoms of Life. And this is video 4, which is the concluding part of this chapter. In the last video, we studied about identification of species, their keys of identification. We looked at taxonomic keys, which I have sent you in the notes. Utility of systematics, how systematics or the science of classification is utilized. Then we also saw tools of taxonomic documentations. And we saw classification of organisms, two kingdom of classification. Then we saw three kingdom system of classification. We saw four system kingdom of classification. Today we are going to study the five kingdom system of classification, and also we will study about the three domain kingdom of classification or the three domain classification. So let us first look at the five kingdom system of classification. As fungi is inclusion in kingdom Protista, we saw that fungi was included in the kingdom Protista due to their heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So we see that the fungus had heterotrophic mode of nutrition, and that is why they were included in kingdom Protista. We saw this yesterday, and this was found to be unsatisfactory by Robert H. Whittaker. In 1969, he proposed a new system of classification called the Five Kingdom System of Classification. For this classification, Whittaker used following three criteria. He used the three criteria: complexity of cell structure, how complex the cell structure of an organism is, whether the cell structure is prokaryotic type or it is eukaryotic type. This we studied in the last video. Then the second category that Robert H. Whittaker used to classify organisms was complexity of organism's body, which means whether it was unicellular and simple or it was multicellular and complex. Then the third criteria he used was mode of nutrition, which was either photosynthetic or was absorptive or was ingesting kind. So we see that Whittaker recognized five kingdoms of classifications. Monera, he recognized Protista, fungi, plantae, and Animalia. Now one by one we will understand what is included in all these five systems of classification, and we will also see the characteristics of these five kingdoms of classification. Let us take Monera, Protista, fungi, plantae, and Animalia one by one. Kingdom Monera. The prokaryotic single-celled organisms are included in this, and these include all bacteria. Let us look at the characteristics. They have ribosomes and a naked circular strand of DNA that serves as chromosome. Then we see, second, a lack of membrane-bound organelles such as mitochondria, lysosomes, peroxisomes, and endoplasmic reticulum. And nucleus is not true as it is not bound by nuclear membrane. Then we see the third characteristics of monerans. they divide by binary fission rather than by mitosis. Let me show you. If you remember from the previous classes, this is how binary fission. So we see here that the monerans, they divide by binary fission, which is shown here in these diagrams. Now, let us come back to we were talking about the monerans, and the fourth one, or the fourth characteristic of monerans, is their fossils have been found in rock strata, and these embedded fossils are so old as to 3.5 billion years old. They have been found. Monera is divided into two sub-kingdoms, and these two sub-kingdoms are Archaeobacteria and Eubacteria. What Archaea means? Archaea means ancient, because Archaeobacteria are the oldest living cells which lack peptidoglycan in their walls, or peptidoglycan is not found in the walls of the Archaeobacteria, whereas in Eubacteria their walls have the substance peptidoglycan. Then we see in Archaeobacteria phototrophic forms which are there use pigment bacteriorhodopsin. Which pigment is used? Bacteriorhodopsin. Whereas in Eubacteria we see that phototropic forms, they use pigment bacteriochlorophyll in place of bacteriorhodopsin. Now, another criteria which differentiates both Archaeobacteria and Eubacteria is all Archaeobacteria live in extreme environments. What are extreme environments? Such as absence of oxygen and high salt contents, then high temperature places, and acidic, extremely acidic pH. And other bacteria, they cannot survive in these conditions. These harsh conditions can only be dealt by the Archaeobacteria, whereas the Eubacteria have extremely wide range of characteristics. They are autotrophs, like they are photo or chemo or heterotrophic in nutrition. Example, the Linobacteria or the Cyanobacteria. Sorry for the mispronunciation. It's Cyanobacteria. Also, previously they were called the blue-green bacteria. What is important about monerans is that monerans are important decomposers and mineralizers in the biosphere. Let us come to the second kingdom about which Whittaker spoke. Kingdom Protista. These eukaryotic unicellular organisms, they include some animal-like protozoans, A. Then B, some algal protists which resemble the plants, and this kingdom Protista also includes slime molds which resemble the fungi. So we see here that in protists we see different kind of animalcules, we see different kind of organisms which are microscopic here. And what are the characteristics of these? They evolved 1.6 billion years ago. When were they evolved? About 1.6 billion years ago. And they are extremely complex. The protists are extremely complex. Their cells show more diversity than found among the cells in multicellular kingdoms. Their cells are so numerous and their cells have got such diversity that much diversity and complexity is not even found in cells of multicellular kingdoms. Then we see The phylogeny. What is phylogeny? The evolutionary past. The phylogeny is equally complex and still difficult to understand by so many biologists and scientists. Then the fifth characteristics of Protista are that they give rise to fungi, they give rise to higher plants, and multicellular animals also they give rise to. Then we come to the third kingdom, kingdom fungi, which includes multicellular heterotrophic organisms which obtain nutrition by extracellular digestion and absorption of organic matter. So we see that fungus, they can obtain their food by extracellular digestion. That means digesting something from outside their body and absorbing that organic matter. I'll show you the example of this in a few moments. The second characteristic of kingdom fungi is many are parasitic in other multicellular forms. Many of these are parasitic. So we see here the fungi which are shown, and many of these fungus are parasitic because they depend upon other multicellular forms or of animals. The yeasts, if we look at the yeast, then what does the yeast help in? The yeast, it is an exceptional fungi with single-celled body. Yeast has got single-celled body. Then we see that fungi are very old. They are about 400 million years old. They possess cell walls made of chitin. We see that they possess cell walls made of chitin. Then the sixth criteria we see is they lack flagella. We don't see flagella in any of the fungi, and they have restricted motility. That means they usually stick at one place and they are not able to locomote. The seventh point about them is that fungal body consists of tangled mass of threads called hyphae. Do you see these threads here? This tangled mass of threads is known as the hyphae, and the entire filamentous mass, the filamentous mass of this is called mycelium. The parasitic fungi mycelium have special hyphae called haustoria. Let me show you with an example. Here you see is the host. This is the host plant, and the fungus which is here, it has sent a haustoria, which is a specialized hyphae, and what it is doing is it is doing extracellular digestion. It is digesting all the different organic matter that is found inside the host cell, and then it will suck all this through this haustoria and will obtain its food. So we see that this is also an example of fungi. They are most effective decomposers. We see that fungi, they are the most effective decomposers. They within the ecosystem protect our ecosystem. The feces of animals, etc., they are broken down into simpler substances so that they can be returned back into the soil. Then the ninth characteristic we see about fungi are edible. Many of the mushrooms we find are edible. We buy them and we can make them and use them as food. And these edible fungi, they produced antibiotics, and these antibiotics, they fight diseases and bacterial infections. Then we see that yeasts are fermenting organisms. They are used to prepare alcoholic beverages. So yeast is a fungus which is utilized for fermenting, and it is used to prepare alcoholic beverages as beer, wines, etc. There is a mold which is known as ergot. This mold, which is known as ergot, is used with its derivatives to control bleeding in people, and also as a painkiller of migraine. The pain of migraine that people get in their head, in their brain, that is treated with the help of derivatives of the mold ergot. Then we see that harmful fungi are there which cause skin diseases, which you have studied in class 8th and 9th, ringworm and athlete's foot. They cause diseases. Then we come to the fourth kingdom, kingdom Plantae. This is the fourth kingdom that we would be looking at. This is kingdom Plantae. This includes multicellular autotrophic organisms that have successfully entered terrestrial environment, and they have several characteristics. Let us look at them one by one. More than 400 million ago, they spread in the terrestrial environment all across the earth. They adapted so well, so they could help their survival. Then the third thing is that the group includes red-brown algae. Then it includes green algae. It also includes mosses. We see here mosses which are bryophytes. Then it includes liverworts. It includes ferns. Then this kingdom Plantae includes seed-bearing plants and so on. Then the fourth aspect of Plantae is some flowering plants have evolved into totally heterotrophic forms, living as partial or total parasites. Some are insectivorous plants. You must have seen when you must have studied in lower classes that there are several insectivorous plants like pitcher plant, sundew plant, Venus flytrap, and these plants, they digest small insects to absorb nitrogenous matter from them. Then we see that Plantae also contains plants that possess rigid cellulose cell wall. There are plants which also possess rigid cellulose cell walls and are devoid of locomotion. All the Plantae, they are devoid of locomotion because they are rooted to the ground. Then let us come to the last one, which is kingdom Animalia. In kingdom Animalia, let us see quickly these characteristics. These include multicellular heterotrophs that obtain energy by ingesting organic molecules of other organisms. There are animals that prey on other animals. They are known as carnivores, and others are animals that eat plants, and so these animals are called herbivores. Then the third criteria is to survive, they either work as predator or the prey. They need complex sense organs to receive information from their environment. And so the fourth point is cephalization took place, or proper development of the brain, head, eyes, nervous system. Cephalization is part of the process of increased neural development. The kingdom has diverse groups like sponges, and cnidarians, then flat and round worms. Then they also include annelids. They include arthropods with joint feet. They include mollusks having shells. Then echinodermates. Till here, these are all invertebrates. Now, the vertebrates include both cartilaginous and bony fishes, and amphibians like frog, reptiles like lizards, and birds, etc., and mammals. All these are included. Then the sixth point is ecologically the animals are consumers, and they form links in different food chains and complex food webs. They are involved. Then we come to the three domain system of classification. There are three kinds of cell organizations in the organisms, told by Robert H. Whittaker. And he said that there are, out of the three, two prokaryotic and one organization is eukaryotic. So we have two prokaryotic type and one eukaryotic type. Now these three domain system of classification was given by Carl Woese in 1978. He proposed a three domain system, and the rank domain which we see here, this is above the kingdom, and the eubacteria, the three domains are the eubacteria, we see here eubacteria, and the second is archaea or the archaeobacteria, and the third is eukarya. In eubacteria, we include the prokaryote cells with peptidoglycans, example gram positive and gram negative bacteria, and this can be given with an example mycoplasmas. These are given example as mycoplasmas. You see the mycoplasma here, the mycoplasma. So this is included in eubacteria. Then we come to archaeobacteria. They possess cell walls without peptoglycan and includes three kingdoms in itself. Example, methanogens, halophiles and thermoacidophiles. These three we will study in detail later on. Then we come to the third kingdom of the three domain classification, eukarya. This includes all the eukaryotes placed by Whittaker in the kingdoms like Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. So with the study of this we conclude this chapter. I'll be sending you the notes and the questions for this soon. So children, wish you all the best for the oncoming exams. Thank you.